In today's episode, sure'll take everything. You can't pick up extra time because you had too many sick days. HR per diem business expenses. So let's get started. Sure'll take everything. Some background: I used to work at a rent-to-own company that we can call rental center. My state takes a dim view of rent-to-own, so to get around it, rental center offers a rental term at the end of which your last few payments are converted to a loan, and when you pay it off the rental is yours. When you start you get a 90-day price, but if it isn't paid off on day 91 you're in it for the long haul. Basically 4 times the 90-day price. You could package items together to make your weekly bill cheaper. You could turn in anything you wanted, but to get it back you had to start over. Our store bought items on credit, and as an item was paid on by a customer, the amount we owed was paid on. So we buy an item for $500, you rent it and pay 50 payments, maybe we owe $50 still. If you turn it in we rent it to someone else at the full rental price, but still only owe the last 50. Anyway, one day a pain in the arse customer, they'll call Karen, called to have us pick up a stove. We went, grabbed it, brought it back, no problem. A week later, and I'm doing inventory. I find the stove, and it isn't on my in-store inventory list. I look it up to see why, and it turns out this thing was in a package with 2 other items, and her account rep didn't check. Those other 2 items are still there. We had this dumb rule where if you turn something in, to be counted among inventory, it had to physically be brought back into the store. I realize this lady has 2 items that have to be brought back before I can reissue a contract for them. I know this is going to be annoying, so I look at the 2 items she still had. Turns out we only owe like $120 left for the 2 remaining items, so what I decide to do is offer her fridge, and in window AC at $120 90-day, same as cash for the hassle of having to pick them up. This was going to save her a bunch of money in the long run, even if she couldn't pay it in 90 days. So I pick them up, bring them back, count them as inventory, write up the new contract, bring them back in an hour. She saves a metric fucked and everybody wins. I'm usually great with customers and I can usually calm them down when a problem comes up, so I call and tell Karen about the problem, let her know I need to pick them up. Before I can tell her the freaking deal she about to get for the trouble, she starts cursing at me. This is BS. You people are incompetent, lots worse names and so on. This call ends up last 20 minutes with her freaking out the whole time. I keep trying to say hold on, let me explain, but Karen has skipped may I speak to the manager and gone full scorched earth. She says come get it all. I try again to defuse the situation and explain, but get called some vile shit for my trouble, and again get told to come get it all. I look at the computer, smile and say okay sure. Malicious compliance. Karen didn't realize come get it would basically mean empty my trailer. She had a fridge and an AC along with the stove. She had a living room set, 2 TVs, 2 other widow unit ACS, a bed, she even had lamps. This lady had been paying on this stuff for a long time, and some of these contracts are close to the final term. She was about to lose it all. I get in an empty truck with another employee and drive to her trailer, and her husband answers the door. Dude, I feel bad for her husband to this day, he was super nice. I tell him Karen has told us to come get everything, and he opens the door while apologizing to me for her behavior. She's not there. I tried to talk to him about the deal, hoping he could calm it down, but he said it was just better to do what she wanted. So we load all the big stuff as fast as we can. I'm about to grab one of the AC units when I hear her pull up. She comes storming up the driveway cursing us with one of her friends. I hear her get to the front door. Her husband is there. I hear her say to her husband, "You're as stupid as your mother." Her husband has apparently been conditioned to this and doesn't say anything. I decide I'm not carrying the window AC through the house with her acting like this, so I just lift the window and let it fall out. I go around outside and pick it up. The other employee walks out and she's cursing at him. He goes and sits in the truck. I come out and Karen goes nuclear. This is such BS. Why are you taking this stuff blah blah blah, followed by some horrible names, and a lot cursing. I smile, and say you told me to come get everything. Twice. I walk right past her smiling. I grab the fallen AC unit while she is stammering, you better bring all that back right now. She followed these statements with name calling and in talking crap, talking about our families, anything and everything. If she had just stopped for a moment and spoke to me like a human, I would have put it back, but she didn't. I put the AC on the truck and say I'm sorry, I can't do that. Once it's on the truck it has to go back to the store to inventory and check it for damage, but then I'd be glad to talk to her about putting it on a new contract. You can't pick up extra time because you had too many sick days. I'm a nurse at a large hospital. The floor I worked on was selected to be the COVID unit during the first and second waves. More nurses than not were catching COVID. So whenever I got an inkling of being sick I would call out and get tested. Now if I tested positive then I would get 2 weeks off without penalty. But I tested negative and returned to work. I get called into the office and got a verbal warning because I had one too many sick days. I said to my manager, you realize we are in a pandemic, right? She says yes, I know that, but we still have to stick to the original policy. When we clock in, there is an electronic message that pops up on the time clock that reads, during the pandemic we need to self-monitor ourselves, and by clocking in you are declaring that you are fit to work. There was no adjustment to the policy even though we were a COVID unit during a pandemic. So I would either have to lie about feeling sick when I clock in, or call out and get in trouble. Here is where the malicious compliance comes in. I had always picked up a lot of extra time in a sister department. Not because I needed the extra money, but because the hospital was always short-staffed. My manager didn't like the fact that I picked up extra time in the other department. She wanted me to pick up extra time in our department. So she said, as punishment you cannot pick up extra time in the other department for 90 days, the length of my disciplinary period. You should be responsible enough to pick up extra time in your own department. As I didn't need the extra money, I didn't pick up any extra time in that period. I got called almost every day to ask if I could come in because they were short-staffed. One of the reasons they were short-staffed was because our sister unit was even more short-staffed, and the nurses on my unit were getting pulled to go work there. If only more nurses picked up extra time on the other unit. At the end of the 90 days I was told I could pick up extra time in the sister department again. At which point I handed in my 2 weeks notice and told her I accepted a position at another hospital. She then tells me that because of my years of service I need to give 4 weeks notice. I tell her no, that's just a courtesy. So I'll extend the same courtesy I got when I needed to call out sick. HR per diem business expenses. This happened a few years ago, but had a laugh thinking about it after corresponding with the individual today. Per diem is just a general amount of dollar paid per day, for food etc., while on a business trip. To set the stage, I work in a rather small group for a large university. There's maybe a dozen of us, and what we do touches a very large portion of the university/branches of the university. Our software vendor invited a few of us out to a meeting with other customers to give us some updates. They weren't necessarily trying to sell us anything at the time, just more of an introduction to other customers and an excuse to spend some money. It was a large sporting event, and they had free snacks/drinks including alcohol for a few hours. They also gave each of us $30 in vouchers to spend like cash anywhere in the stadium. I volunteered to drive, using the company vehicle. I woke up around 4 a.m., I had picked up the car at the end of the previous day. I picked up 2 co-workers en route, as they didn't live far from the main highway going to the event. We got there and had a great time. Unfortunately we declined the free alcohol, as we were technically on the clock, and I had the company vehicle. Next time I know to drive myself or plan on a hotel. The event ends, I drove the whole way back to drop off the company vehicle, backtracked some to get home, and was excused from work the next day, as it was nearly 8 a.m. at this point, and I had been up for over 24 hours. The next workday is where the MC starts. This was my first time filing paperwork to get a reimbursement. I had asked HR a couple simple questions along with how many days I should claim per diem. He responded with 2 and I thought nothing of it since I was technically away for more than 24 hours. I finished it, submitted the papers to HR and thought nothing of it. The next day I was greeted with an email copying my boss and her boss questioning why on earth I would request 2 days per diem. After a laugh and forwarding his response from the previous day to my boss, I graciously let her respond to not only him, but his boss, in which she bolded his response telling me to claim 2 days. In the end the HR guy apologized, but I was only reimbursed 1 per diem day. I think in total it was $100, 1 day plus parking expense. I honestly didn't care that much and wasn't even going to submit anything, but my boss twisted my arm. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.